So I went to my a friend's wedding yesterday. It was a good friend from college, and so I saw some other old friends of mine, and it was really nice. But I noticed I had some like anxiety going in um, because I hadn't been around people in a while, and just the question of like, what do you do, or even like, what's your name? Because yeah, am I gonna introduce myself to people as Eve, but all my friends are gonna be calling me Jane. So I didn't want to make a rule, so I arrived, and it was interesting because one of the first questions one of my friends asked me is like, what do you expect? What do you want me? Do you expect us to call you something else? And it was just kind of like that awkwardness. It's not just about the name, but like when I've been really deep in my own process, like I usually am, and how to reconnect with people that it's like I'm still me, but what's been important to me is something that I haven't really shared with them, and that includes the name, and so just the feeling of being of two different worlds or disjointed, but it was really nice to connect. And one of the things that came up was this idea of cultivating the relationships that you already have, and you know if instead of waiting for some perfect one, or that idea of like no one understands me or whatever, to bring the light of the closest that I know is possible, and bring that energy to every relationship, and then so that it's raised to the highest that's possible, and there's no forcing, but and it was really good to connect at a deeper level, and also to share the past that we experienced together. And the other thing that's coming in is this whole idea about like how to find a balance with the money and being an artist. And today I also saw an Airbnb photographer. They sent one, which was cool, and he's a photographer, and he's talking about the kind of the trade-off or the compromise with working as a corporate person and also being an artist. But he is having an exhibit right now at this place called Still Point Theater, which sounds like it might be a really fitting place for me to try doing the show another time after the Mexico thing. And they're also enlarging their space to include like a revolving artist exhibition, like visual art. So that was really neat. And then earlier today there was an open house at this place, and I met the realtor that was kind of hosting it. And of course, again, just like the first Airbnb guest, I wasn't expecting to make a connection. I was just gonna like stay out of the way. But I opened up to her, and she started talking about her family history. She's from Cuba, and it's just so fascinating. And we made a deep connection, like over the similarity and the differences between like what our families have gone through and the way it's affected her. She felt like that the family shouldn't have left Cuba, and that they should have stayed and fought, instead of fled. And I used to think that about my parents. I mean, it was different circumstances, but I did not understand why they came here. Like, why did you come here to be unseen and ignored and work these manual labor jobs? But pretty recently, actually, this year, I finally started to reframe that, because I also felt guilty about it. Like, I didn't ask you to give up your life, for a better future for us. But I realized that, I think Korea at that time, it was too small for them. They wanted to venture forth. And yeah, things might have been easier in Korea or whatever, but that's not what life is about all the time, things being easy or comfortable. So, yeah. And so it's also the sense of being really present and making connections with whoever's in front of me. Again, that same idea with people I just made and also old friends, rather than waiting or thinking that there's some future opportunity that's better. And Oh, and I've been reading the book Wild, the one the movie's based on with Reese Witherspoon, and it's only because I kept wanting to watch the movie and I never did, and then I found a quote from her that I liked, and so I got the book at the library, local library, that I hadn't been to since I was like in middle school. And the chapter that I read just a few minutes ago was talking about her last name. So her name is Cheryl Strayed, and apparently Strayed isn't her given name. When she was getting divorced, she had a hyphenated name with her husband, and the divorce contract, it gives you a chance to write a totally new name. And so she thought about it, and she looked up what the word strayed meant, and it resonated with her, just the way like rain does for me. And she knew right away that it was her name, but she talks about how, you know, she felt odd about telling it to people because she remembers the days when she felt like when other people in high school or something would, you know, give themselves hippie names, or like your name's really Michelle, but you're calling yourself Rainbow, you know, that kind of thing, which is exactly how I felt. And just when the name is given or without context, how it can feel really, yeah, like you feel embarrassed about it, or there's kids playing here. So it was just nice to, you know, read that and have it reflected, and especially because I was just going through that yesterday with my friends who knew me before I changed my name. So, and just how much of it really is an identity thing about like claiming yourself, you know, just like it's just a symbol of all the other things that we've been given, that we're grateful for, and also stepping into or embracing in a new way.